back to the Agency Asset Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Sichanowski, and this is episode number 2. We are here with two esteemed colleagues from the Unified Growth Partners Insurance Agency. I've got TJ Dixon and Jeff Crumbaugh. They work in our field side of the house, and today we're going to be talking about building your book as an agent. We've got some great experience here that has helped numerous agents. Jeff and TJ probably tell us what those numbers are here in a bit, to not only establish themselves as an agents in the space, but also grow their books to sizes that we'd all love to see, especially when those commission checks come in over the years. So I'm going to toss it over to TJ for a second. Give us just a short intro on yourself.
Yep, absolutely. Really nice, Jonathan, to have us on. Really appreciate that. TJ Dixon, on the field side of Unified Growth Partners, really excited about this podcast today. I've been in the business 25 plus years. I've always been in some form or some form of retail facing business. And before this, I was in the wholesale wine and liquor business, then got into the insurance side of it. Started with a couple different carriers over my 25 years. One of the things that I've realized in life is it's all about building good relationships with people, having good relationships with people. And if you tell somebody you're going to do it, then you do it. But the most important thing, that I've found in this business is the relationship side of it, no matter whether you're in insurance or some other form of business, but the relationships are key. So
Yeah,
thanks
well,
for having us on, Jonathan.
yeah, absolutely, TJ. We might have to dig in a little bit and understand why you moved from, the beer and wine and liquor business over to health insurance. Maybe there's a relationship there.
I'd be glad to talk about that. I mean, it really was simple. I went from being very unhealthy to try to promote healthy. So,
There you go. He's got it down. Jeff, why don't we toss it to you quick?
Yeah, thanks, JC. Well, I guess TJ had the luxury of going first. So we're, much like TJ, 25 years in the health insurance industry myself, across a couple carriers, as well as a number of different FMO distribution partners similar to UGP, and a couple of startups in the clinical space, value-based care clinical, and have worked on consulting gigs with a number of other startups more in the tech space as well in healthcare. So, excited to be here. Excited to be with the UGP team. I've worked with a lot of you folks over the last 10 plus years, and just trust what you do. And like TJ said, it's all about honoring our word, and that's what we want to bring to the market.
Awesome. You mentioned VBC, Jeff. What, just so folks understand, can you give me a little bit more on what that is?
Yeah, I apologize. The acronym bomb there, but value-based care in the primary care space, where a beneficiary can receive. Well, let me back up. So, a traditional fee-for-service clinic will have upwards of 2,500 to 3,000 beneficiaries per physician, right? That doesn't really lend itself to a very relationship-driven type of arrangement. You'll have 6 to 10 minute appointments. Doctor may or may not remember your name and isn't really in touch with what your health concerns may be. In a value based care arrangement, they're compensated differently from the carrier, and they have upwards of probably capped out at about 600 per physician, which means they can then spend more time, better access to a physician, same day appointments if necessary. Average appointment time will range between 20 to 40 minutes,
Mm,
So it's a partnership more than it is, I hate to say dictatorship, but more of just a hierarchical, I guess you'd say. So.
sure, sure. Well, I think we're probably going to talk a little bit more about how agents can work with provider offices and potentially target some of those folks that are in these kind of VBC arrangements, right?
Yeah, tremendous opportunity.
Mhm. Well, we'll get to that in a little bit. One of the first things I wanted to tackle with you guys, and we're going to get deep into it right away, is what challenges do you see for agents building a book in today's environment? And I'm going to go with you, Jeff, first.
Yeah, it's It's how to differentiate yourself versus our peers. I think there's upwards of 1 million insurance agents across the US, right? So what separates you, Jonathan, versus TJ or all the other TJs out there in the market? Um, is it you specialize in value-based care clinics? Is it you focus on a particular ethnic background, a cultural background, or a particular product per se? So trying to be everything to everybody is challenging as an agent, right? I think focusing on what is near and dear to you, whatever that maybe it's an ethnic background, focusing on your community is smart at first, and then grow outward from there as you build your base, I think is key. And we've got some newer agents on our team who are exemplify that, what can't wait to highlight them at some point.
Yeah, and Jeff, digging in a little bit on that, thinking about this, going kind of close to home
Mhm.
first, and then building out from there. Are there, you know, different techniques you see that folks use to, you know, make that transition, or, what how do you see that process working?
Well, I think it's a manage. So now that we're into what we call SEP or special enrollment period or OEP / SEP, we don't have this tremendous selling opportunity, yet there is opportunity. So it's working with agents so they're not just hyper focused on sales today, but building the funnel for later, which would be for AEP of 2026, and managing that equally, right? It's 80% now, 20% for later, and don't be dissuaded if somebody says, I have what I need. I was just having this conversation with an agent yesterday. I was said, some of the best referring clients I have are from people I never sold a thing to. They just knew that I said, you have what you need and you're perfect where you're at. And they're like, oh, I can trust you, right? Because I didn't try to jam them into something may not have been the right fit for my own selfish sake. So focusing on that, building for today, but building for the future simultaneously. And just I think it's all about going back to basics and just building your brand while making yourself known in the market. We have one particular agent who's using WhatsApp just to kind of announce to people that she's doing this, right? Her community uses a lot of WhatsApp. So I was like, yeah, that's perfect.
Mhm.
Just make it super. You don't have to go granular on what you do. Just say, hey, I'm here to answer questions about Medicare. Call me. As simple as that. She got 3 calls in 10 minutes.
There you
You
go.
know,
That's
it
awesome.
worked. Yeah.
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 Yeah, so what, one thing that I've been thinking about is related to some challenges is the amount of regulation that continues to come out. And we know we had some big regulation proposed in many of us would be thankful that it was stayed at least for a period of time around field agents and commissions and administrative payments. How do you see that affecting agents today? Like, is there a particular set of regulations that you think have introduced some challenges, or ones that you see on the horizon that we need to really watch out for? TJ, you wanna
Yeah,
opine on that
sure.
at all?
At First, I do want to go back to something Jeff was talking about, and it reminds me. And I used to see this in my 25 years in this business. People would get really good at something that they were doing out in the community or whatever it was, and they just quit doing it. And I'd always ask them, "It worked so well. Why'd you quit doing it?" Uh, be consistent and be be very intentional on what you're doing. And to your question, JC, yeah, there's this business from when I started in it 25 years ago, a lot of changes. I mean, I just give you a great example of changes. When I started, it was OEP every month. There was no there was AEP and then there was OEP, but the AEP just gave you the ability to write somebody in October or November for a January 1 effective back then, uh, because it was just every month you could enroll people. And so there's definitely been a lot of changes that have created restrictions out there, made it tougher to make enrollments now. What I always tell people, especially in the last 5 to 7 years, as things have really changed on what you're allowed to do enrollment wise and time periods, is starting on December 8th. you need to be planning and prepping for your AEP for next year. So while you may not be able to enroll somebody right now because they don't have a qualifying election period, you can put them in your funnel and start building a relationship with that person and being helpful to them, answering questions for them, being a educator. While when it comes around to October 15th of the next year, then you can have a different conversation
Yeah.
with them and they're going to feel more comfortable with you about that.
And so both of you, what I've heard is let's build relationships, right? Let's build rapport. Let's establish ourselves as a trusted resource. It, particularly, TJ, you mentioned, thinking about this as a very long funnel or long pipeline in the opportunity to build the book. How are you seeing agents tackle that? Because trying to keep things straight, especially when you're, maybe like Jeff, right? You mentioned that one agent already within 10 minutes they had three different conversations going.
Hmm.
How do you see agents successfully taking, what are these multitude of conversations and making sure that they continue to progress forward over a long period of time?
Yeah, I'll tackle that one because it's kind of near and dear to my heart. Yeah, one of the things is I have realized in the last many years, agents are wanting a good technology platform, a CRM that helps them with their business so they can mine their book of business, they can do other things with their book of business. But to your question, JC, if you're really good about taking notes when you're talking to people and not just the needs that they have insurance wise, but remembering what their pets, their dog's name is, or their grandkids, or stuff they do with their grandkids. When you call them up doing your 10, 30, 60, 90-day calls, and you say, "Hey, Jonathan, I was just thinking about you. How are you doing today?" I mean, that's a personal conversation you're having with somebody, and they see you not as their insurance agent, but somebody that cares about them. How's Rover doing? I know, last time we talked, he was having an ACL surgery. How did he recover from that? If you if you make it on a personal level, they don't look at you as a transaction. They look at you as a person that they have a more intimate relationship, for lack of a better word, where they're willing to share things with you and ask for your help and also share who you are to their friends, families, and neighbors.
Yeah, I like to describe that relationship as being very intimate, right? As a health insurance agent, what you end up needing to know about your clients in order to offer the right portfolio of products to protect them is really details that some of their own personal family members don't know about
Right.
them, right? And so you become a very, very trusted resource because of that depth of knowledge that you're going to have about somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
Jeff, any perspectives you want to add there?
Yeah, I mean, and so in particular with that one agent you were mentioning too that had used WhatsApp, I had just told her because we had laid out like four different strategies, and I'm like, in the absence of getting you in the CRM today, just use a piece of notebook paper, but keep track of where each of those calls are coming into, so then we can then load it into the CRM tool later, and then we can, run reports and say, hey, this is what's working, this is what's not, because in the absence of that it's just gut, right? And generally you'll be close, but I think the raw data is important for all of us to be able to I know that the three of us are kind of data geeks, so I know we love those things, but agents sometimes don't think about that, so need to
Well,
do more of what works and less of what doesn't.
Hmm.
So
yeah, and I think that's probably an important point to get deeper into is, what are some of the technology elements that can really help agents through this? I imagine is, it's easy when you got a handful of clients, you can count them on your fingers, right? But when you start getting beyond that into the 30, 40, 100 different clients, trying to keep things straight, as much as I think we'd all love to be able to just keep it straight up here, leveraging technology is there to help us make sense of that and to do it effectively.
yeah,
I
yeah.
agree.
Well, and it just creates more efficiency, allows there's only so much time in the day, right, Jonathan? And so
Yeah.
if you can carve off an hour of that admin time and lean on technology and use that for another sale, makes sense, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. What other technology that are you guys seeing that you're excited about for agents? I know you mentioned CRM, that's probably not a new concept, but I think there's probably some elements to that or related to it that you guys see out there that agents ought to consider.
Well, one of the things I'll share, and I'll just give a very high level conceptual view of this, because if you want to know more about it, call us at UGP and we'll share more of that with you. But one of the things I've known for many years, and probably even it probably really went on steroids, is when COVID hit, is agents really wanting to protect their book of business. Now, there's some concepts and ideas and innovations that we have at UGP where we can help you with book of business protection. Uh, won't get into the details of that, but I will say that that's one of the biggest concerns I've heard from agents, especially the last 4 or 5 years, is protecting their book of business. And to your point, JC, they can only do so much in a day. And I know some of the very really good producing agents that have really good retention in their book of business. One of the initiatives that they do daily is they make a very intentional process of connecting to at least 8 to 10 of their people in their book of business a day verbally. And so that means they may call 20 people, and they do that every morning religiously. That's one aspect, but there's other ways with automation, with technology, where we can help you protect your book of business as well.
Yeah, because I know obviously we if we know who's calling us, we're likely to answer, but if we're using some
Right.
systems where it's not clear who's answering, most of us probably aren't picking up.
Right. Right.
True.
I
Uh,
think some of the enrollment platforms have really hasten the enrollment process, right? I mean, I realize they've kind of been in play for a few years, but they've just continued to get better. Now you can send out your scope of appointment or send out a request for an updated RX list before you do their newly updated for the year, right? So again, just leveraging technology, what before was a administrative burden. By and large, especially with just the straight enrollment, and that's both on the Medicare on the ACA side. Some great
well,
technology out there.
and I think folks are becoming more comfortable with that, right?
For sure.
Like,
Mhm.
we if we go back 5, 10 years ago, it was probably a higher level of skepticism or just not an interest in adopting that kind of technology where we're inundated in our lives with it every day. And so now, as much as we may have resisted it or just not been on the path to adopting it, you are there much more often than not at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I will tell you from a former carrier that I worked at for many years, one of our leaders' favorite saying, especially, and this started about 8 years ago, is paper sucks. Um, and it is funny that there are still a handful of folks that just want to have that paper, and you do need to have some paper applications, obviously, because you never know. Technology can do funny things, but for the most part, I would say 99% of the time, you should be able to do an electronic enrollment. And my viewpoint always has been that that's your best way of protecting yourself and, more importantly, the prospect or your current member that you're moving to a different plan, because the likelihood of that app pending when it's done electronically is a lot less than when you turn in a paper application.
Yeah.
Uh, but there are still folks that do use paper out there, and that for some, there are some reasons that you do need to do that when your laptop or whatever goes down. But I would say if you haven't adopted using electronic enrollment methods, you really need to.
Well, in some ways too, you can get faster feedback, right?
Right.
If you're doing paper, they tend to also give you responses back via paper, right? And
True.
mm, small windows, especially, as you're reaching like the end of AEP or the end of OEP, that timeliness becomes a factor in whether you can resolve that issue before it becomes a bigger issue for your client.
Sure.
Thinking about prospects and trying to build that book, what kind of technologies have you guys seen to help get connected with potential new clients?
Yeah, I this generation of retirees or turning 65s are more willing to do stuff over the computer, right? So you can do a lot of that um, still in the funnel from age 62 to 63 all the way through 65 on teaching them about Medicare, and they can join a conference call or a video conference call and learn more about it, be it live or on demand, either or. And I always, educate agents that if you're the one supplying that education, people are honorable and they tend to go back to the person who kind of, brought them to the dance, so to speak, right? And they just want to, hey, JC's the one who taught me about Medicare. I'm going to go to JC when it's my time to retire, my time to go on to Medicare and let him help me make that decision. And so I think it's important for us. Well, 63 is 2 years prior. It's really that's when they start to think about it, and it creates a lot of anxiety inside of them as they're thinking about it, and it doesn't need to be. I always laugh with people. I'm like, hey, when you turn 65, does Medicare call you up and say, hey, TJ, happy birthday, let me tell you about what your options are? No, they don't, right? That's what we're here for, and that's what is exciting about what we do. We get to kind of cut through that fog or that haze that kind of lays over that and remove some of that anxiety that goes along with it. So
Yeah, absolutely. The education piece, I think, is a really good opportunity as you bring folks into retirement and even before retirement. I think there's some opportunities depending on the plans that folks have with their employers. If they're eligible for Medicare, that might be a better choice for them to go with the Medicare plan than to
undoubtedly,
have this huge, high deductible health plan that,
sure,
doesn't kick in until they've already put $7,000 out of their pocket.
absolutely, absolutely.
Agree.
From an agency perspective, how are you guys seeing agencies helping agents build their book? I always think about, right, leads seem to be a great opportunity to help as an agency to help your agents grow. What are you seeing agencies do in that space today?
Some of the things that I've seen, really good agencies doing is providing different types of training programs that really help agents understand that be an educator first. I think about, when a person turns 63, 64, they start getting their mailbox blown up. I mean, it's still still direct mail get is still a big piece, but now, as many people know, probably the uh, biggest group on Facebook are seniors. So now all the ads on Facebook that are hitting with different programs for Medicare and different opportunities and ads. But I would say what I've seen really good agencies do is help their agents have that educator mindset that they're out presenting what a person's options are. Because I have, in my many years and many kitchen tables I've sat across, the first thing I'll see with the senior is confusion, fear, and anxiety because they've got this new behemoth Medicare that they've got to deal with, and they've got all kinds of stuff, and let's be honest, even the Medicare and U book, it's not the greatest reading novel in the world out there, but it's got great information on it. So you be that bridge, that educator that takes them from confusion, fear, and anxiety and gives them a little peace of mind, helps them understand that process. And honestly, when they take that fear and anxiety out, they have a better quality of life too, because they're not worried about that. They've got you to lean on or depend on if they have questions or are not understanding something in the business. And the agencies I've seen that really equipped their agents out in the field to be that educator, the ones that are really doing good work out there and helping the senior community as a whole by having really informed and agents out there wanting to do well by doing right.
And is there are leads a thing anymore, or is that kind of dead? Where do you see that going?
Uh, I'll answer. Leads are still important. Uh, agents want to get in front of prospects. I would say, as an agent, don't be so dependent on somebody providing something for you. Use lead opportunities and marketing support that you do get from your agency, but use that to help you ask for referrals or get out into other community partners because you're in an area of the city maybe you haven't been in before and you see some businesses that you want to go prospect. Yeah, leads are still important. Uh, Leads do cost money. We do have some innovative quality lead programs that we're providing at UGP that if you're interested, give us a call. Uh, some might say kind of a back to the future take on leads, if you want to say that. But yeah, leads are absolutely important. You've got to have a multitude of ways that you brand yourself out in this industry and in the community. And you can't just rely on leads and you can't just rely on community work. You've got to have a whole wheel that you're working different areas and doing different things to put yourself out there.
Well, and you mentioned marketing support, and I know love to hear Jeff's perspective on what kind of marketing support are you seeing out there today? Is there something that is resonating more than maybe it has previously?
Yeah, TJ mentioned this earlier. I think we find what works and then we chase the shiny penny thinking it's going to work better, only to, go back to what was working. And there's nothing that will ever be grassroots marketing, right? Being relevant in your community, getting out there, being seen, being known as a resource, an educator, a trusted educator, but as well as just like genuinely and being authentic, right? I
Mhm.
mean, like if you need to go to a food pantry and roll up your sleeves and hand out food and you do nothing but that, you're not doing, any type of true marketing. You're just building your brand, so to speak, and you're helping your community. That's meaningful, right? If there's a natural disaster in your area, just get out and help your community, right? I mean, that stuff will come back to you and you'll feel better just by doing it in virtue of that anyway. So there's all kinds of shiny things we can do, but I think that's like the 20% kind of the extra cherry on the sundae than it is the base of, our business, right? It is goes back to where TJ and you were talking about relationships with the beneficiaries. Our relationship as an agency to the agents is very similar, right? We have to pick up the phone, we have to say hello, good job, we're here to help and be authentic and meaningful about it. And it becomes harder to do that as you scale an agency into the thousands and thousands of agents across the country in multiple time zones. How you do that, but I think we've got the right system in place to be able to manage through that as we grow.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you guys are excited about for agents that can help them grow their book that you're seeing out there right now?
I'll tell you something that I'm really seeing, and this probably has started post-COVID more than I've ever seen it, is agents being more willing to diversify their product portfolio. You know, for so long, p- agents were just really heavy with Medicare, 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 Medicare. Nothing wrong with that. I think with some of what we were talking about earlier with the regulations and just changes that continue to happen, and as we all know, when administration changes, the agencies change their spots or their fingerprints. What I'm seeing and hearing from a lot of agents is they're getting into more products than just Medicare. Maybe they're dipping into hospital indemnity or ACA or life simple final expense policies, which that then opens your aperture to where I always like to say everything leads to Medicare at some point. So maybe you're selling a dental plan and you go visit a dental office, you build a relationship with that dentist because you're selling individual dental plans. Well, guess what? They have people that are on Medicare that maybe don't have a dental plan right now. So then you show them how you can help them have claims paid on a more consistent basis. And you can also help them with you being a conduit for that dental provider to the carriers and providing help that way as well. So there's a if you open your aperture of what you do out in the community or what you do product wise, at some point that's going to actually lead you right back to Medicare.
Yeah. Yeah, and remind me again, TJ, you rattled it off pretty quickly. Which products do you see them really expanding into as an
Uh,
opportunity?
I would say hospital indemnity has been one probably almost all Medicare Advantage agents have gravitated towards. Now I'm hearing a lot of ACA talk. People are doing more ACA business that were just really Medicare focused agents, and now final expense. A lot of agents are getting into final expense and doing more with that, which makes sense. I mean, final expense and seniors, but then now they're gravitating more traditional life products. There's a lot more agents that are putting these products in their portfolio that they never had before, that they would be solely focused on Medicare.
Great. Great. Thanks, TJ. I'm going to shift us a little bit and think about what advice would you give to new agents out there, right? We've talked about a little bit about the tenured agents and what they can do to grow. How about new agents? I remember you mentioned, Jeff, some early programs that folks might use in the community to kind of develop grassroots. You want to uh, opine on that a little bit, or other
Yeah.
points of advice that you'd think new agents would be really good to hear?
Yeah, I guess I'll first start out with TJ, and I hear this consistently when we're talking interviewing agents is, gosh, I swung and missed. I went with this other agency and I spent a bunch of money buying their leads and they didn't pan out. And every time TJ's probably like, why are you keep apologizing for these people? But I'm apologizing for us as an industry that the people have to go through that. So I guess what I'm saying is, ask the right questions. And maybe we need to develop a list of questions that new agents need to ask to be able to
Yeah, what
be
what are,
focused in on what that may be, right?
what are
What
some
is the amount
questions
of
like
my
that?
investment? Yeah, no, I'm going to go off the cuff here, Jonathan, but just like what is going to be the amount of my financial investment that I'm going to have to make to be successful within your organization or within your structure? Um, what do you necessarily do different than others? I guess I would say interview three agencies before you join, right? Because don't just go for the first one that sounds good. Because in the absence of not knowing anything sounds good as a new agent, right? It just all sounds great. Um, TJ and I aren't opposed to telling people that's not the right fit for them at sometimes too, right? We're just trying to keep people from making that mistake of leaving their job necessarily they have today, full-time job, and just jumping into this, right? I mean, so let's transition you slowly over time. So it's just more palatable. It's not so abrupt. You don't create a lot of anxiety. Other questions they could ask is, um, how far reaching are you? Like, well, how many states do you cover? What's your product breadth, right? Is it, as TJ mentioned, some of those earlier, is outside of Medicare, life, health, dental, indemnity, annuity, some of those financial products that go along with it, right? So, how long have you guys been in business? What's your experience level in the industry? Um, and that will generate a lot of response back. But I think if you ask enough questions, eventually you'll be able to sniff out the ones who aren't genuine and authentic about it. And I just
Yeah.
want to keep people from making the wrong decision because that ends up the majority of the time, those people don't give somebody another chance. They just move into another industry. And we probably lost a good agent in the industry who would have, we actually interviewed one the other day who had gone through three. I'm
Yeah.
like, you are tenacious. If you've gone through three people and you're still willing to go another try here, so
They're
hopefully you've made
committed.
the you've made the right decision, in joining us. But I applaud him for keep trying his stick to itiveness. So
Yeah.
I think those are great tips, and we'll get something together for agents to potentially leverage what those list of questions are. So
sure.
we'll post that in the links in the descriptions for you guys when we get that together for you.
A needs analysis for an
There you
age for
go. Love
agents.
it.
Uh, hey, I'd like to offer something on this too. One of the things that I will tell you inherently, most people are good people. They want to help others. Most agents in this business, whether they're in it for a year or they've been in it 15 years, they want to help people. When you help somebody be successful, that's like goodness for your soul. It makes you feel good. People want to help. I would tell a new agent, you get in with an agency, you're going to have great support from that agency. Let's hope you join Unified Growth Partners, you will have great support. But what I would tell you to do is be willing to go to different events that are out there, network, get introduced or introduce yourself to agents that are been doing the business, talk to them, be willing to learn from them. Ask them, what have you done that's been so successful? The agents will share what they have done. They want you to do well.
Yeah.
Uh, if an agent doesn't want to share, they'll tell you, well, I'm not going to tell you. But I will tell you 99% of the time when you talk to somebody, if you're at a carrier event and you're just talking to somebody, they're going to be very open to sharing what's been successful for them because
Are
they want
there,
to see you do well.
yeah, TJ, from an event perspective, right? You mentioned carrier events, which they're usually inviting you guys to help understand product better. Are there other types of events that are common places for agents to network and to get to know each other and ask those questions that you just mentioned?
Absolutely. I mean, you've got the traditional chambers and BNIs, but another area in a very fastly growing industry, value-based providers hold lots of events with agents. And they're doing a lot of events where they're doing stuff that's focused towards prospects, but they invite multiple agents into these events, and they do a bunch of different types of events. Attend those as much as you can because you are going to get in front of or get around agents that have been doing it a lot longer than you, or you may be the tenure one and be that person that wants to help the new person be successful and show them how to work a value-based provider and understanding why value-based provided care is really good for a senior. Those are a couple areas I can think of just off the top of my head where you're going to be in front of other agents, and you'll be in front of other agents if you're doing chambers and BNIs
Yeah.
and other stuff that are agents that are property casualty, or maybe they're financial. That's an opportunity for you to network and build a relationship with them where you may be providing them referrals and they're providing you referrals. So there's a lot of opportunities out there. Expose yourself to that. You're not gonna be able to network and find things sitting at your desk. You've got to put yourself out there and look for stuff. You can Google and DuckDuckGo, and you can find all kinds of stuff out there where you can attend and make that a point, an initiative that you do on a weekly basis.
Awesome. Thinking about that, you mentioned the VBC opportunity, and Jeff mentioned that a little bit more earlier when we first started chatting today. Is that something that's more of a new agent opportunity? Is that something that's a tenured agent opportunity? Like where do you see that falling in all of the different approaches and strategies that you can use to grow your book?
I don't think it really matters your time in the business if you have a good understanding of how it works so you can convey that to a beneficiary about their benefit, right? There's always been this long kind of fought discussion of who's got a closer relationship, the agent or the doctor, right? And let's just say it's 50-50. But if you can put you as a good agent in conjunction with a value-based care doctor, that's like a 1 + 1 = 3 or more, right? Because
Yeah.
you know, sometimes the agent sees that beneficiary more often than a doctor does over the course of 12 months, right? So I always say don't ask the agent about medical and don't ask the doctor about insurance, right? They both need to stay in their lane, but work together as a partnership. And if you're talking to the doctor's office and the front office staff and maybe the doctor even themselves, like that's cohesive, right? And let's example, if a doctor leaves a clinic, guess what? They lose about 70% of that membership will follow that doctor to wherever they may go, if it's local, of course, right? So that's how tight that relationship may be. And so you want to be with that and keep I think a 90+% persistency rate with your book of business is something people should strive towards for field sales, right? So that's key. And also value-based care years ago, AARP, I believe it was, did a study that stated that people that go to value-based care arrangements live on average about 6 years longer than people
Hmm.
who go to a fee-for-service arrangement. I haven't seen the latest update, but think about that. That's 6 years longer that they get to, experience time with their kids and their grandchildren. But for you to have renewals in your book of business, right? that's I mean, we could put a dollar figure on it, but it is quite high, with probably $1,200 to $1,500 per member on a Medicare Advantage plan. So that's substantial if you add that up over however many people you may have in your book of business. All the while they're living healthier and happier, and so there's nobody losing in this arrangement, right? So leverage those, and we can help you. We've got a number of relationships across country we can help you plug into.
Yeah, and you mentioned renewals. Something that I've heard a little bit more lately in the industry is this concept of like a standard commission and a heap commission. What is that about? What's happening there? Are there dynamics there that agents should be aware of if maybe one or both of those options are offered to them when they're interviewing with agencies?
CJ, you want to take that? I know we
Yeah.
were just having that conversation
Uh,
recently.
yeah. So, the standard commission, depending on how you go to the agency, one of the things that when we started with Unified Growth Partners, Jeff and I wanted to have the ability for for us to meet the agent where they want to be met. And so we have an opportunity where it includes some, upfront support dollar wise, uh, different marketing support, more touches, things like that. You also have the traditional direct agent that is paid the fair market value commission structure that CMS sets. And then there's this program called HEAP where it's a bigger dollar amount up front. There's no renewals on the back end, and that can be good for an agent if they just want that money up front. Uh, that's a structure if that's how you want to go. What I like about what we're doing at Unified Growth Partners is we're meeting you, the agent, where you want to be met. Our mission is to meet consumers where they are, helping them to protect their health, wealth, and family. Well, we also want to meet the agents where they're at in their journey, per se, in the agent space. If they're new and they need some more support up front, we've got an opportunity for them. If you've been in the business and tenure, but you want some of the relationships that we have with our leadership team of over 200 years of industry experience, we have that ability to bring those relationships to you where you can help you in doing what you're wanting to do in the community. So we've really structured what we're offering here as a way for you to find the best path for you. And then we'll help you through that journey as you become more tenured. We have programs where you can have different ways that you go out and work the industry as well.
So what I'm hearing, TJ, and you tell me if I'm hearing it right, is maybe like a heap style commission, which has that higher upfront, but really you lose out on the long-term renewal stream. Could be something that a new agent might be really looking for to help them have kind of early financial stability, but understanding that you lose that long tail, which can be really valuable as you build strong relationships with your clients. Is that the right way to think about it?
That is absolutely the right way to think about that.
So there's probably some level of trade-off that you have to assess then,
Mhm.
right? It can help you get off the ground early, but at some point the probably the longer term value, especially if you're building a strong book of business, is moving towards that standard commission. Is that
Undoubtedly.
fair? Yeah.
Yeah. Cut it
Absolutely.
out.
And what we'll do is we'll sit down with you and help you make the best decision for yourself. We'll give you the nuts and bolts of how all the different ways you can, go into this industry are, and then you got to decide what really is more comfortable for you at the where you're currently at. And we'll help you with that. And the one thing that Jeff and I, have when we first started together with this, the first thing we want to do is we weren't going to overpromise anything. We were going to over deliver, and we were going to be uh, supportive with you all in the field as much as we obviously can. But we want to have regular connections with our partners out there so they know they've got somebody here supporting them. offering insights, offering, hey, have you thought about this? Or, working through their plan and helping them hold themselves accountable to their plan, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. From a 10, we talked a little bit about new agents and what advice you'd give them. I know you've sprinkled in some advice on the tenured agent side. What other areas of advice might you have on the tenured agent and then what they can do to continue to grow their book?
Well, I think, you mentioned it earlier, Jonathan, about persistency of your book of business, right? I saw something on LinkedIn recently with a 70 to 80 to 90% retention rate and the amount of different revenue stream, right? Over, I think it was over 10 years, a 70 to a 90 came out to be about a 3x difference. And so, that's exceptional, right? And that's applicable to anyone, in scale. So, what things do you do? I think touch points are important. 4 touch points a year, they say in the 65 plus demographic is key or more. And so even if it's just calling them on their birthday, their anniversary, and just say, hey, happy birthday, shooting them a text. I mean, I have made phone calls to people where I was the only person who called to wish them a happy birthday. Maybe their kids or they're just disconnected from them or their kids had forgotten. And like, just the amount, it feels good to you. I probably got more out of that than that person, just knowing you brought a little bit of sunshine to them that day. But any of those things that you can do, outside of the obvious, is policy reviews and stuff like that. Those people will refer you out, and that is probably the biggest one, Jonathan. Is just ask every person for names that are using your name to have them call you. Right? Don't keep me a secret. Have them call me if they have questions, even if I tell them they have exactly what they need. It just gives them a peace of mind. So.
Yeah, I think that that's a great point too, Jeff, is around, right, that helping them make an evaluation doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be a different plan.
Right.
Right.
Or maybe they're on the
Good.
best one that's available. That's awesome. And then you're showing that you're demonstrating, not just showing, you're demonstrating that you care what's best for
That's
this
right.
potential client, right? Because you haven't necessarily sold them something. But it also doesn't mean that that door isn't completely shut either. Like TJ mentioned, that maybe in your evaluation, you discover that, hey, they've got this super huge hospital copay where it could be a great match that they stay on their current plan, but you help them become a client of yours through a hospital indemnity policy.
Right. Right. Yep.
And JC, I'd offer up too that when somebody's enrolling somebody, especially on an HMO, but even on a PPO, you're generally asking them who their PCP is, right? And then you're identifying who their specialists are. And as we all very well know, the biggest complaint to Medicare, what's called a CTM, is generally around provider not being in network. That's a no-brainer that we're all asking that. What I've always told the folks that I worked with, whether it was previous carrier that I was at, I would ask, why don't you know who their dental provider is? Figure out who their dental provider is, and then you can go visit that dental provider. A simple question: are you a veteran? Find out if they're a veteran, and then do they go to the VFW or do they have an American Legion that they attend? Go visit that American Legion or VFW, if you're going to go visit American Legion or VFW, don't go in there with the mindset of what's in it for you. Ask them how you can help support them. Are you all needing to help drive more membership here? I want to help you do that. Uh, I always one of the biggest things that I see with agents is they go right into the presentation, and it's just a habit. You get in the house, or you're at a Starbucks, you're at a McDonald's, you pull out your stuff, and you're showing your video if you're showing the video, or you just get right in the presentation. Take that 7 minutes to get to know the person that you're sitting next to. If you're walking in their house, how many of you all look at their pictures? I do. I always look at pictures because I'm going to tell you right now, when I go into a person's house and I see military, the first thing I tell them about is my dad, my brother, my brother-in-law, my nieces, all who serve this great country. And one of the reasons you want to do that is you want to have that person feel that connection that you have with them. For me, it's military. Maybe if they're a golfer, I played college golf, or if they have a grandson that plays football, I tell them about my son that played college football. The whole point is finding a connection with that person, because as soon as you find that connection, their defenses go down and they're willing to listen to what you have to say. And I'll share a great analogy my dad used to always say: if you were meant to speak more than you were to talk, you'd have two mouths. We need to do a better job using our ears and less of this.
Love it. Love it, TJ. It is interesting from a rapport building perspective. I always say is we don't build relationships with companies, we build relationships with people,
Right.
right? And as much as companies would love to say they build relationships, it's often the people or the product, in case you're not working with somebody individually, that they're really building the relationship with.
Notably.
Yeah.
Well, hey, you said you guys are actively kind of building out an agent base. What are the key things that you see Unified Growth Partners offering agents that help differentiate it across against all those other agencies that are out there today?
I think it's for us, it's time. The people on the team have by and large been in their seat. I never fail to mention that when I talk to an agent. I've sat where you're at. I've lived through those hard months where maybe it's gotten a little lean. I had to figure some other things out. I know what you're going through, and TJ's been there. Jonathan, I mean, you personally, you sell, right? I mean, we all understand. We're not coming at this from a corporate level where we're just trying to give directive. It's more of like, let's get in there and let's figure this out together. So it is a very hands-on grassroots. It's also a very time-consuming environment, and it is hard, but it is worthwhile to watch a passionate agent who just a fledgling agent just prosper inside of that. And so that's one thing. The technologies, we might have a little bit better of a flair on some of the things we're doing, a feather in your cap, JC, on the marketing side, some of the things we're doing there that will become self-evident to agents and agency as they join the team. But it's a matter of like, we put the beneficiary first, genuinely, and a lot of the carriers and other agencies will say that too, but it's usually that's, they have financial arrangements which require them to put themselves first. And we're not necessarily in that boat. We can put the beneficiary first, and the rest of the things, the money just kind of works its way out, right? And that I would say for me personally, outside of the trust and Pat and Dan and folks like yourselves, is why I joined the team, right? It wasn't to chase more money. It was because I got to work with people that I like and I trust, and I know we're going to do the right thing on a day over day basis. I know that sounds real humana, but like when you get to a certain point in your life, that stuff becomes core and
Hmm.
key, right? And we can lift up others by doing good. And that just feels great. I can go to bed every night and be excited about getting out of bed. And Randy, everything we do is virtually the same every day, but you're just continuing to help more and more people. I'll sign up for that every day. So, TJ, I didn't know if you had any comments.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I did mention a little bit ago is about our 200 years of industry experience. One of the things that I love about what we're doing at UGP is we have good relationships with carrier partners, with VBC partners. We've got great local partnerships, and I'm not saying other agencies don't; they absolutely do. Uh, we've also come in this and built this organization from that carrier perspective and brought on folks that had a perspective from the agency side and the value-based care side. So I feel like we've really got a lot of diverse thinkers here uh, that are really, and I feel this in my heart. They they really want to do well by doing right, and they're not gonna our teammates are not going to promise something and not if they can't come through it. If they can't do it, they're going to tell you we can't do this, but let's try to find a solution. Uh, The other thing I think about is uh, bringing an opportunity to you uh, through the relationship perspective. So we we have two co-founders that have great reputations in the industry, and they have a lot of partnerships with different organizations that maybe other agency principals or co-founders do not. And they come with a 25 plus years of experience in different aspects of the industry, and that means something. That reputational equity means something in this business. And that's and I know those two, and I've known JC for a long time and Jeff for a long time. I love how the organization, the foundation of it was built first. I've seen many agencies that the principal's out selling. At some point, they'll bring in a CRM and they'll find a marketing team at some point. They put their money where their mouth was. They built the operational team first, the marketing team first. They built the bones of this organization first because we wanted to offer an experience to the agents out there that while we are growing, you're going to have foundational pieces to it that you may not get elsewhere. And I think that's important. And providing that good experience up front is a really important thing. And I'm excited about being here. I've learned a lot in the many months that I've been here. Uh, and it's been exciting. And we've got a lot of great things that we're getting ready to bring on. And we're always looking for how we can do things better. And I love that the agility that we provide as an organization because you don't always get that in certain organizations. Some organizations are very stuck in their thinking, and we are not. We are very uh, willing to think differently, and I think that's a good thing. And we solicit and want feedback from our partners that are writing business and seeing things on a real time basis. We want them to tell us, hey, you guys should think about doing it this way. We want that feedback. That's how we collaborate with you all. You have a voice in what we do.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting is the point of view of, and we've seen this over years in the industry, is there's almost a constant level of disruption, right? There's some years where the disruption's smaller, but just the nature of the business, how Medicare plans are designed and put into the market, there's this constant minimal level of disruption that occurs on an annual basis. And we look at it as opportunity, or excuse me, disruption creates opportunity. And that's an opportunity for us to continue to evolve and put ourselves in a positive position moving forward rather than looking at it as disruption as a burden that we have to work through. It's certainly
Agree.
tough, right? We're not going to take away from it's not an easy business to be in. It's not easy to work through disruption, but it creates opportunity versus just solely being a burden. Well, with that, guys, I know we're starting to come to a close on our time. Just a quick recap on what I heard today is, as a new agent, there's a good opportunity that you need to interview the agencies that you're looking at connecting with, making sure that what you hear from them resonates with what you want in terms of support. As a tenured agent and a new agent is building rapport with your clients is a really great way to build an established relationship and continue that relationship over a long period of time. And as a tenured agent, as you build that book of business that you have, continuing to keep an eye on retention is critical, especially as we talk about the level of disruption. This last AEP has been a huge disruption, potential for another AEP of disruption depending on CMS decisions that are coming up in the next couple months. So always opportunity. I want to thank TJ and Jeff for joining us and sharing their background and insight, and encourage that if you've made it this far in the podcast, make sure to like the video, to subscribe to the channel as we continue to release episodes here at the Agency Asset Podcast. And refer to any of those resources that we mentioned. We'll have them down in the description so that you guys can make use of those. Appreciate everybody paying attention and listening to us, and looking forward to seeing you on the next episode.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Take
Thanks
care,
again,
all.
Keith. Thanks, everyone.